Everyone expected a polished clown to entertain at the lavish estate party. What they didn't expect was a woman in smeared makeup and mismatched socks to become the very heartbeat of the celebration, and the spark that would shatter lies, mend a grieving heart, and turn a broken family into something whole. In the sprawling suburban mansion of West Point Heights, balloons floated and fountains sprayed rainbow mist for little Ivy Sterling's 8th birthday. To the guests, it was a child's dream: ice sculptures, ponies, and a magician warming up backstage. But Ivy, perched quietly beneath a cherry blossom tree, barely smiled. Her father, Nolan Sterling, a widowed tech CEO, spared no expense to make her birthday magical. Yet beneath her frilly pink dress, Ivy carried a sadness money couldn't touch. Since her mother passed a year ago, she hadn't laughed, not truly. Nolan noticed but didn't know how to fix it. Just as the string quartet began to play, a beat-up red hatchback screeched to a halt outside the wrought iron gates. Out stepped a woman in an oversized clown suit, frizzy orange wig tilted askew, one shoe missing a sole. Guests whispered. Nolan frowned. This wasn't what the entertainment agency promised. "You must be Sparky," he asked, bewildered. "Name's Coco," she said cheerfully, popping a balloon animal into Ivy's hand. "And I believe it's party time." Coco was chaotic, dropped her juggling pins, forgot her jokes, and spilled her face paint. But Ivy watched, spellbound. Coco's silliness wasn't scripted, it was human. When she slipped on a cupcake and landed in the punch bowl, Ivy's lips curled into something Nolan hadn't seen in a year. A genuine giggle. The laughter grew, timid at first, then full-throated and free. Ivy clutched her sides. Nolan stared in disbelief. After the show, Ivy clung to Coco's hand, refusing to let go. "Stay," she whispered. "Please." Coco's painted smile softened. Nolan approached, guarded. "That was unexpected. She really liked you." Coco nodded. "Sometimes the heart needs silliness before it remembers joy." She knelt beside Ivy. "You're allowed to smile, sweetheart, even if someone you love is gone." Coco, real name Juniper June Callahan, was no ordinary performer, a former counselor turned part-time clown. She used parties as a side hustle to pay for her sister's medical care. "I read people better than I juggle," she once joked. And she had read Ivy instantly, lonely, withdrawn, and wrapped in fake smiles. As Ivy hugged June goodbye, a tall woman in diamond heels and perfect posture stepped forward. Talia Monroe, Nolan's fiancée. "That clown stinks like patchouli and regret," she sneered once Ivy walked off. June raised an eyebrow. "I'd rather smell like regret than entitlement." Talia turned on her heel, visibly fuming. June returned to pack her things but paused near the garden hedge. Voices, Ivy and Talia. "You embarrass me," Talia hissed. "One more stunt and I'll lock you in your room again. Got it?" Silence. Then Ivy's tiny voice, "Yes, ma'am." June's heart dropped. June stepped from the shadows. "You speak to her like that again, I'll make sure the world hears it." Talia scoffed. "You're a clown, no one listens to people like you." But June's eyes didn't waver. "I listen, and Nolan will too." Nolan confronted Talia that night. At first she denied everything. But Ivy, tear-streaked and trembling, nodded silently when asked. That was enough. Talia was told to leave. "You're choosing a clown over me," she snapped. "No," Nolan replied. "I'm choosing my daughter." That night Nolan sat in silence behind the wheel, Ivy asleep in the back seat. The headlights painted the road ahead, but his mind was behind him, on the hedge, the overheard threats, the broken trust. He glanced in the rearview mirror. Ivy's face twitched in sleep. A tear-streaked cheek pressed against her unicorn plushie. He gripped the steering wheel. It wasn't just a clown who changed things today, it was truth forced into the open. The next morning, Nolan sent a message to the entertainment agency asking for June's contact info. He found her number and called. "You saved my daughter yesterday," he said. "Can I thank you in person?" June hesitated. "You might not like what I say if you do." "Try me," Nolan replied. They met at a quiet cafe. June wore jeans and a scarf, her hair now neatly pulled back. "Ivy's not okay," she said after 2 sips of coffee. "She's grieving, she's lonely. She needs more than parties." Nolan nodded slowly. "And I need help figuring out how to be what she needs." Nolan leaned forward. "You understood her in minutes. Would you consider spending time with her, not as a clown, just someone to talk to?" June blinked. "I'm not a therapist anymore." "No," Nolan said gently. "You're something better, you're real." June showed up at the estate the next Saturday. Ivy answered the door herself, her eyes lighting up. "Coco?" she asked hopefully. "Just June today," she smiled. They spent the afternoon making paper snowflakes, painting seashells, and reading books. Ivy laughed, freely and often. Week after week, June came back. Some days they played, others they cried. June didn't force Ivy to talk about her mother, but when Ivy finally did, June listened without flinching. Nolan began joining them occasionally. He learned how to just be with his daughter again. Late one night, Nolan paced his study. "Why didn't I see it?" he muttered. June, curled on the armchair with tea, said gently, "Because grief blinds even the smartest people, you were trying to hold everything together. It's okay to forgive yourself." Nolan had an important investor dinner one evening and had no one to watch Ivy. "Would you mind?" he asked June. She agreed. That night they made chocolate chip pancakes for dinner, had a tea party with stuffed animals, and watched the stars from the porch swing. When Nolan returned, he found Ivy asleep in June's lap on the porch, both of them under a blanket. He stood there quietly, absorbing the warmth of the scene. It didn't feel like babysitting, it felt like family. At a charity gala, Nolan's old friend and colleague Marcus raised an eyebrow. "So this clown turned nanny, is she staying for good?" Nolan stiffened. "She's helping Ivy," Marcus smirked. "Just Ivy?" The question haunted Nolan for days. June could feel the shift in the air. Nolan looked at her longer now, listened closer. She felt herself softening toward him too, but it scared her. Love once broke her. Could she trust again? Would this fairy tale end like her last? They all took a weekend trip to Nolan's lake cabin. No Wi-Fi, no schedule, just marshmallows, tree forts, and campfire stories. Ivy thrived. Nolan relaxed. June watched them together and felt a seed of hope grow in her chest. On their final night at the cabin, June hummed an old tune as she made cocoa. Nolan reached out, wordlessly pulling her into a gentle sway. Ivy peeked from behind the door and giggled. "Are you dancing?" "We might be," Nolan said with a smile. June received a letter from her sister's care facility. Her sister had taken a turn for the worse. "I may need to step away for a bit," she told Nolan quietly. His face fell. "We'll be here, always." When June didn't show up one weekend, Ivy broke down. "She's gone, just like Mommy," Nolan held her. "No, sweetheart, June's coming back. She's not leaving us, I promise." June returned 3 weeks later, exhausted but smiling. Her sister was stable. She brought Ivy a small plush lion. "For when you feel scared," Ivy threw her arms around her. "I'm not scared when you're here." Talia arrived unannounced, designer suitcase in hand. "I'm here to fix things," she said smoothly. Nolan was stunned. "There's nothing left to fix," he replied. Talia spotted June and sneered. "Her? Really?" June stood her ground. "You don't scare me," she said to Talia. Talia laughed. "You're just a hired act." Nolan stepped between them. "She's more real than you ever were." And with that, Talia walked out for good. The first snow blanketed the estate on Christmas Eve. They decorated cookies, built a snowman, and exchanged handmade gifts. June gave Nolan a book of dad jokes. Ivy gave June a drawing of the three of them under a rainbow. That night, Ivy whispered to Nolan, "Can June stay forever?" He hugged her tightly. "I hope so, kiddo." Nolan began noticing small things, how June remembered his coffee order, how she adjusted Ivy's scarf, how her laughter lingered. And June noticed too, how Nolan looked at her like she mattered. One chilly evening on a walk through the woods behind the estate, Nolan stopped and said, "I think I'm falling for you." June's breath caught. "I'm terrified," she whispered. "Me too," he said, "but I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you." Snowflakes fell like glitter as Nolan leaned in and kissed her, slow, deliberate, and full of promise. Ivy watched from the porch, grinning. June shared her full story, why she left counseling, the pain of watching her sister fade. Nolan listened, not trying to fix, just holding her hand. "You're not broken," he said. "You're brave." They told Ivy everything, about their feelings, about wanting to be a family. Ivy beamed. "So, she's gonna be my new mom, if she says yes," Nolan said, turning to June. June smiled through tears. "Yes." Nolan and Ivy planned the proposal secretly. Ivy drew blueprints. "We'll do it at the park by the pond where the ducks live." "Perfect," Nolan said. Ivy practiced giving the ring box. "You have to drop to one knee," she reminded Nolan. "Don't mess this up," Nolan laughed. "I'll try my best, coach." June thought it was a picnic. Ivy wore a dress and carried a basket. Nolan waited near the water. "We've made memories here," he began. "But I want to build forever with you." He knelt. "June Callahan, will you marry me?" She blinked, stunned, then knelt too. "Only if we do it together, always." Ivy threw petals in the air. Wedding plans began. Ivy was the flower girl, stylist, and DJ. June panicked about dresses. Nolan panicked about vows. Ivy panicked about cake flavors. Before the wedding, Ivy gave June a box of notes, for when you feel scared again. June cried for an hour. Nolan joined her. The morning of, Nolan couldn't find his tie. June couldn't stop pacing. Ivy told them both to breathe. "It's just love, silly." Under a canopy of lights in their backyard, surrounded by close friends, Nolan and June said, "I do." Ivy read a poem she wrote. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. June became Mommy June instantly. Ivy bragged about it to everyone. "I have two moms, one in heaven and one right here." The house no longer echoed with silence. It rang with laughter, music, midnight snacks, and bad knock-knock jokes. It was finally a home. June kept her clown gear in a small closet, just in case Ivy ever wants a laugh emergency. Sometimes Ivy did. On Ivy's next birthday she requested Coco the Clown one more time. June obliged, wig, mismatched socks and all. Ivy's giggles echoed for hours. Ivy wrote a letter for school titled The Day My Life Changed. She wrote, "It wasn't when Mommy died, it was when a clown saved me." Years later they looked back on that party, the start of everything. "Life's weird," June said. "Life's beautiful," Nolan replied, "especially when it brings clowns to birthday parties." Months passed, the estate grew quieter but warmer. Ivy laughed often now, her room filled with paintings, music and love. June no longer wore a clown suit, except when Ivy begged. On a breezy autumn afternoon, Nolan knelt in the orchard and opened a small velvet box. "I thought I was hiring a clown, but you brought our lives back. Will you stay forever?" Tears welled in June's eyes. Ivy squealed, wrapping them both in a hug. Under golden leaves a new family was born. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more soul-stirring stories that celebrate love, laughter and second chances.